Okay, for the kneading, I'm gonna follow the technique of Bertinet. No, is that right? I'll have to look it up. Hold on. Bertinet, Richard Bertinet, who's in the UK. So for this first phase of the dough, just trying to get it to where it is relatively smooth. It has a way to go, and it's going to get messy. I'm wearing AirPods just for noise cancellation. So we're going to be adding water to this in a second. And by the way, I'm standing on the equivalent of an old style phone book so that I've got leverage over this. If you're kneading, I definitely recommend positioning yourself. All right, so I'm just basically mixing stuff up. I'm going to double check the taste of it, just to make sure I've not forgotten salt. That's fine. Toss in just a little bit. In this case, just going to squeeze the water into the dough. And it's going to be very wet when we're still kneading it. Oops, I'm going to have to wipe off my shorts. I used to use my mixer for bread, and I still do, depending on the bread. But for a French style Levain, I like the feedback that I get tactily. So you can see that this is pretty wet. There's not a lot of moisture left in the bowl. I'll go ahead and scoop out what I can from the bowl. This is going to be a little messy to start off with. All right, so let's see how long this takes to knead from start to finish. I will spare you the details on this. There's lots of great videos that Richard Bertinet has put together in terms of how to knead, and I will be following that once I get this to sort of decent level. But basically, I'm scooping my hands underneath, I'm a little stretching it, and then I'm flipping it over like that. And you just keep doing that, and it will, in just a few minutes, get to something pretty decent. And then the tricky point is how much further you have to go to get to the point where it is actually good as a dough, which is built up enough. So talking for me while I do some cleaning here. So you can see that like a ton of the moisture is gone. Ton of the moisture is gone. And it's starting to become a dough. In about 3 minutes, we'll be in pretty good shape. Stick it in my hands, but not so much that I can't fold it. And every time I'm scooping it, and then I'm flipping it over. You notice now I'll scrape up the surface. There's a lot less stuff just randomly around. If you have a granite countertop, I highly recommend using them for this. Cleanup is easy if you have a bench scraper. So you just let the dough dry afterwards and then just scrape it off. Now as I'm doing this, can't take a video of this, but I can feel that it's puffier. I mean, just the volume of this dough feels more in my hands. And that's as I've been kneading a bunch of air into it, and it starts to activate the long protein strands. And what you're going for ultimately is that the loaf is feeling pretty bouncy. And it's quite smooth. And again, if you go look up Richard Bertinet's videos, really good stuff. The master of this. I watched his videos before. It wasn't until the beginning of the pandemic that I actually sat down and looked at what he was doing and realized that I was making it much more complicated. I mean, this is pretty easy. We're at 6 minutes. It might take 10 minutes to knead this dough from start to finish. If you did it on a mixer, probably take the same amount of time. I mean, I'm not in a hurry. Days like this, I have lots of stuff to do, like everybody else. But it's nice to find something that you can just focus on. Again, check out those videos because they're fantastic. All right, so at this point, you can see that it's picking stuff up. Well, I can't tell if you can see that, but it's picking stuff up. Picking stuff up off, here we go. Picking stuff up off the counter. So we're getting pretty close. I'm actually in a hurry to go drop off something at my daughter's, so hustle this along, which just means faster frequency. We're now at 7.5 minutes. You can see the dough is getting smooth. Still quite sticky. It gets less sticky a little bit as it evaporates. I don't think it's evaporating that much. I think it's getting absorbed into the flour. This happens to be a recipe for pain Levain Moderne. It's a recipe from Dan Leader's book, Living Breads, and it uses type 65 flour, which is not exactly all white. It has some of the germ, less so than a type 85, but more so than, for sure, a bleached all-purpose flour like a gold medal, which I use for desserts and cookies and stuff like that. All right, so we're at 8:54. Oops, dropping stuff. Remember how messy it was a few minutes ago. and like all over the place. And all that extra water that we couldn't have imagined getting absorbed, it's all been absorbed. Oh, I gotta get going. So I'm gonna pause this for a second.